Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So you may have heard news of a new mount coming. A literal red dragon. Well, that will indeed be the case for this year's anniversary event, the Protector's Jubilee. Now I do have some more details to showcase you, as they actually added this mount to the collections on the preview server. You can find it right here. And ultimately, it is a 4-slot mount with this set. It also has, very interestingly, a combat power, which is basically like Swarm 2.0. It's slightly better than Swarm in Trials, about the same in Dungeons. And it also has a unique equip power of Mighty Action, which does right now only say 3%. I would have liked to see this at least 10% or higher. Otherwise, that's a very minuscule, meaningless amount. But ultimately, I have also gone and updated my 4-slot mount document. There's a link to that in the video description below. Keep in mind of like the key there. The star icon means that bonus you get with preferred. And if there's a box with insignias, that means that's the required insignias or recommended insignias you use in order to get the bonus. So starting here with the Deadly Drider form, we have all of the mounts, I believe, in alphabetical order that we currently have in the game. I just added this Space Gubby School mount with this update, coming from that astronautical lockbox that we can get right now. And then scrolling down to the legendary mounts, they are kind of sorted as well with rarity, and then within their rarity alphabetically, we find the Red Dragon. Ultimately, these are the bonuses we'll be able to get, at least from my calculations. Let me know if I made any mistakes, but I don't think so. And we can get then Protector's Covenant, Lionheart's Preservance as preferred, Mender's Covenant as preferred, Shepherd's Devotion, Berserker's Rage, which is unique. There's no other mount that has that on 4 slots, and it should be as preferred. And you should be also able to get Artificer's Persuasion, also as preferred. That is the very first mount to have that. And it's a pretty useful bonus. When you use your artifact power, your cooldowns are reduced by 2 seconds. Helps a lot to get prepared for, say, the next artifact call, to make sure you have all of your encounter powers to be able to cast for that. Artifact calls are of huge importance. You can do like 50% of your damage in just 10 seconds compared to the rest of the other 50 seconds outside of that. And ultimately, this mount will also help with just its combat power. It's basically like Swarm. If you're aware what that mount does, well, it also has a combat power of increasing your damage, slowing your target, increasing the damage they take, and reducing their outgoing damage. But ultimately, what makes this Red Dragon slightly better is the fact it's reducing the enemy's critical avoidance instead of just flat increasing their damage. Because flat increasing their damage is a debuff which stacks with other debuffs, whereas reducing their critical avoidance stacks with your critical severity, which is maxed at 90%. So if we actually look at the math on this, you can see that this Red Dragon would give you like a 7.46% damage boost when you cast it. This again being everybody. We're not going to include like the personal 15% here, because this is not a power you want to use for dealing damage personally. You'll use this to help other people do damage, so as a tank or a healer. That is why we're comparing it versus Swarm, which is also good for tanks and healers to support the damage dealers. So again, an increase of about 7.46%. If we compare that versus Swarm, we need to make sure to take into consideration the other debuffs. So if we're in, say, a dungeon, you might get like 100% debuffs from just the artifacts and other mount from the other person. So Swarm would add like 15%, you'd be at like 115%. And that would be a 7.5% gain. And you can see then, it's basically very little difference. Ultimately, that's the comparison for a dungeon. So it wouldn't really matter which one you use, and that's kind of great. Newer players who potentially don't have the Swarm can use this new mount from the Jubilee, which you'll be getting it very easily. However, when you do jump to a trial, all of a sudden you have 10 players all using artifacts, and you have 4 support players using other mounts, and you end up like 150% debuffs, which reduces the effect of Swarm because it's basically saturated by, you have a lot more buffs. So adding more just results in effectively a bit less. So it'd be like 6%, which means the red dragon comes out a bit better because it is adding to your crit severity effectively, giving that 15%, and you're maxed at 90% usually. Just be aware, Bard, I believe, does have an ability to give like 10% as well. But overall, a very good mount that you can use as support. Also pretty interesting that you'll be able to get Artificer's Persuasion with it. So it will definitely have its uses. Just unfortunately no Tactician's Precision like many of us would prefer. Now I have gone updated this entire document and added a section here for the 3-slot mount bonuses, because yeah, again, you may find that some mounts have those 3-slot bonuses, so we may as well add them to a list, and we have them right here. And that's going to include the red dragon with Artificer's Persuasion. You can find a bunch of other useful ones here too, like Shepherd's Devotion is nice for team support, Barbarian's Revelry, Oppressive Reprieve for some like self-heal, Gladiator's Guile for some like movement speed. So it can be nice to have those 4-slot mounts giving those 3-slot bonuses still, as we don't have direct upgrades for those yet. The 4-slot ones are all here with the mounts listed as before, and they have added the Space Gubby School mount and also the red dragon. So overall, hopefully that helps. That should be all of them documented. If there's any mistake you come across, don't hesitate to message me. It's quite a lot here, and it's easy to make a little slip up here or there, but I hope everything is corrected and is exactly right. Very handy to be able to see exactly what bonuses the mount will give you and what insignias you may even need in order to actually get that bonus, and whether you'll get it on preferred or not. Ultimately, looking forward to actually getting my hands on this mount and seeing how it is to ride around. The unfortunate thing though is this mount's going to be very common. It's going to be pretty easy to get. You'll see a lot of people having it. I would have personally liked the dragon mount, the first one added to the game, to be something special that you would have to like spend a lot of resources to get, or a lot of time, or complete certain challenges. But alas, this is going to be something anybody can get regardless what skill level you are. You just got to play the event a bit. Overall, the mount looks pretty cool. You can see some of its just idle animations right there. Its neck is covered in armor, goes up to a saddle there at the back, and then yeah, the armor doesn't continue there. It's got decent sized wings, and hopefully it can flap them, and it's very unlikely we'll be able to fly anywhere with it. For somewhat of a size comparison, we could see that here in the Protector's Jubilee dev post. You can see that area in Protector's Enclave, and you can see it's like this area right here with the water just there between the two pillars, and that's exactly where the dragon is. Pretty massive, with its wings easily reaching either side of the pillars just there. So it will be pretty impressive having that wandering around. But again, it's going to be a pretty common mount with a lot of people having it, even like day one. So hopefully all of this helps. Pretty happy to see that at least it's got Artificer's Persuasion. Was hoping for Tactician's Precision though. But alas, we should be able to still get the Neverwinter hand from this year's Jubilee, and that does have Tactician's Precision. So make sure to grab it if you haven't got it already this year. Very, very useful. I'll show some data, do some tests, and show you why this is so powerful. So thank you for watching. A massive thank you to all of these channel members. I will see you guys around. Goodbye for now.